Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I want to start, first of all, by acknowledging a couple people on the call. My senator and my state representative joined. Samba Balda is new former member of the City Council in Madison. I've worked with him on criminal justice issues. Thank you, Samba, for being on. And Senator Melissa Agard, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are always there. And of course, CDFIs are impactful in your districts as well as many others throughout the state. Welcome, everybody. We have had terrific interest in this. There are 24 new legislators. I wouldn't put you in that category, except for Samba, but there is a great deal of interest in what a CDFI actually is, and how does it function, and why was it created, and what can be done to improve it. And so this hour, we're going to start in a second with Representative Shanklin, who has authored in the past legislation. She will start this first hour, and Katie Domina from the Governor Evers' office, who's a senior policy advisor, will anchor this first hour in the last 10 minutes. So I'll be calling on those of you who are joining in the call, in the Zoom meeting, in between those two periods of time, and both of them have commitments. So, and then Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you for 1 second or two on, hello Samba, how are you? Good to see you on. Turn it over to Tom for a little housekeeping, just so we're all on the same page.
Great. Great, thank you, Samba. Thanks, Gary. I really appreciate it. And I just want to allow me to welcome everyone again to our first ever virtual CDFI day at the Capitol. Thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. Before we proceed with today's activities, I kind of wanted to go through a few housekeeping notes that will ensure our time together will be most beneficial for all. I'm sure everything that I'm going to share here is nothing new to anyone, especially for those who have participated in the 12 Zoom-filled months that we've all been a part of. But we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to participate if they so choose, and we want to create that environment for that. So, for optimal viewing, we recommend that you utilize the speaker view setting so that the individual who is speaking will be seen with the larger camera setting. You can change that setting in the upper right-hand corner of your Zoom toolbar. As you all are aware, upon entering the virtual meeting space, you were muted. Please remain muted throughout the presentation so that we don't pick up any ambient noise. However, if you do have a comment or question during our time together, please feel free to do so by either raising your hand in the Zoom toolbar, using the chat feature, or the questions feature. I actually just sent a quick chat to everybody who is logged in so we can utilize that. We do have some volunteers. Lisa Sullivan from WIBIC and obviously Gary will help be cultivating those. So please share with us some grace. If we don't get to you right away, we'll be pulling those questions as we go through and find natural time for them. And then lastly, I just wanted to share that this presentation will be recorded. All of the resources that are provided here, the slide deck, as well as some additional resources, will be shared and made available following our time together. So wanted to thank you all again for taking the time, and I'm going to pass the virtual mic on back to Gary.
Great, thank you. I also want to acknowledge, and I will turn this over to Representative Shanklin. Representative Tod Ohmstad is on the call and has a greeting for us a little bit later on. I see that Senator Brad Paff's office, famous staffer Mitch Greenberg, has joined us. I also see Senator Chris Larson, who knows the WIBIC people pretty well, has joined the call, and Representative Cabrera Scott is on. Thank you, Scott, very much for being on the call. Deputy Secretary Catherine Heberland is on the call, and I will acknowledge other people as I look through this list. I want to start off by introducing to you Representative Katrina Shanklin. Many of you who have been involved in the CDFI work are aware of her involvement. She, of course, got elected in a primary that I could best describe as the entire cast of Les Miserables running at once. I think, Katrina, there were 11 people in your primary, and you eked out a victory, and she has been holding the 71st Assembly District. She has a very, very active CAP agency, Community Action Agency, one of the very best in the state. They got very involved in community development and really led the way for many other community development programs and other CAP agencies to be involved. After Katrina, we are honored to have Secretary Kathy Blumenfeld from the Department of Financial Institutions on the call, and she will give us an update at that right after that. I'll turn it over to you, Katrina, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Gary, and to everyone connected to a CDFI. I want to see hello again. Usually we're in the Capitol together, but it's actually really exciting that this is virtual because I see so many legislators and staff today. So to my fellow legislative colleagues, hello, it's great to see you. And thank you so much for your interest in community development financial institutions. I am going to direct my remarks primarily on what the bill does and really kind of just give you a quick background in CDFIs for those of you who might not have had a personal experience with one or don't have one in your community. I think it's important to know the history of them and how successful they've been since 1994, and then really how you can help personally. So CDFIs are community development financial institutions, and they're part of a fund within a federal agency in the Treasury Department. It was established in 1994, and the goal is really to promote community development in distressed urban and rural communities by increasing the availability of credit, investment capital, and financial services there. So in Wisconsin alone, since 1994, the CDFI fund has awarded $2.3 billion to CDFIs, and there are 23 right now in Wisconsin. So just a couple background businesses in my neck of the woods in central Wisconsin that I'd love for you to know about, how they were assisted by Community Assets for People, which is one of the U.S. Treasury certified CDFIs, and it's based in Stevens Point. So Baum's Mercantile is a small town, longstanding family-owned grocery and general merchandise store in Pittsville, Wisconsin. And they operate primarily as a grocery store and deli, but they also in the past wanted to start a successful catering business. And unfortunately, they found it difficult to acquire traditional financing as they saw more demand for catering surfaces as well as more demand for space and catering equipment. They knew that they needed more funds, and they were unable to acquire that traditional financing. So CAP stepped in and helped. They not only helped the Baums in creating a business plan for their expansion and assembling the financing package to get that funding from both outside sources and Community Assets for People. They successfully completed their expansion 2 years after the fact and were able to hire more people. And that's just one example, and more close to home in my neck of the woods of Stevens Point. And if any of you have ever enjoyed a Central Waters beer, Central Waters Brewing Company, which I have to say has fantastic beer and also invests in a lot of solar energy, they actually got a loan through a community development financial institution when they were at a different location in Junction City, Wisconsin. So they were able to grow and expand out in Amherst, as well as several other businesses in Amherst, Wisconsin. Amherst is a very small village. If you've ever been to Central Waters Brewery there, I promise you they're not paying me to pitch them, but they're just such a great company. But you know, there's so many other small businesses on that main street in Amherst, and you can imagine the impact when you get a tiny brewery that's based out in a very rural part of the community that grows again, hires more workers, and then other businesses in that same community grow at the same time. You're not only supporting local investment, you're supporting local jobs, you're supporting not only economic security for those employers, but for those families who work there and for the businesses that get additional business and tourism dollars coming in when people like you choose to go up to Amherst on a nice sunny day. So that's just one great example of a brewery in my community that received support from a CDFI as well. So I've told you what CDFIs are. I've told you that they add investment to communities that can sometimes be distressed. The next piece of this is how can you help? And we have a bill that, as long as I've been in the legislature, I've introduced, and I'm happy to report over time we've gotten it to be more and more bipartisan. So I'm really hoping we can get it a public hearing and a vote. And this bill creates an incentive for individuals and investors to actually put more money into CDFIs. So what the bill does is it creates a tax credit incentive that would be spread out over 2 years. The tax credit for any investment ranging from $10,000 to $150,000 would be 10% spread out over 2 years for any individual or investor. And then there's an additional tax credit spread over 2 years for investments between $150,000 and up to $500,000 per year. That's a 12% credit. So that investment will not only make a huge difference in that community with that business, but it'll also invest in the future of that town, that village, that small business that might want to expand and grow and hire new workers at a time when I think we can all agree we really need that kind of expansion, those new jobs. It might also help retain jobs too. It is estimated that every dollar the state invests will generate $10 in return on this. I think, a tax credit not only raises awareness about the CDFI industry, it doesn't just allow me to tell these fantastic stories, but it also encourages investors to invest locally in CDFIs and continue to make those loans that stabilize local economies and sustain and create family supporting jobs. So I think it's a pretty simple bill to understand. We've seen lots of tax credit bills pass the legislature. What I want to say about the CDFI bill is it invests in our local communities. It keeps that money in our local communities, and we need to champion it. So we've called this bill in the past the Invest Locally to Support Wisconsin Act. And we already have, co-sponsors ready to go. We're looking at introducing this bill as soon as physically possible. But I just want to encourage folks who have questions about the bill or who have questions about CDFIs in general to reach out to me and then reach out to the CDFI network. There are 22 in Wisconsin. They're all just doing such incredible work. I want to point out also that it isn't just about getting a loan. It's that personal relationship over time where the CDFI helps them not only with their business plan, as I mentioned with the bombs, but also providing financial counseling and advice before the loan and after the loan. So investing in CDFIs is investing in people. It's about making sure you're setting up these people who get these loans for success. And they don't just benefit from this lending, the community benefits as well, right? When a new business grows and expands, everyone's excited to see it. It raises awareness. Someone might ask, hey, how did you get the money for the expansion? I know things are tight right now. It's been a really tough year for your industry. And they might say, you know what? I got a loan through a CDFI. Let me give you Mary's number. Let me give you Laura's number. And they'll reach out and they'll connect. And I think that's really an important piece of this. The relationships are deeply personal and they help and care about the future of not only your company, but the whole community, because these people live there too. So I think, many small businesses have already benefited from lending from community assets for people in Stevens Point, as well as CDFIs across the state. And moving forward, I want to encourage the legislators and staff in this meeting to look at co-sponsoring it when we get it out. Someone asked what the official name of the bill is. We don't have a bill number right now since we haven't introduced it, but it's the Invest Locally to Grow Wisconsin Act. And if anyone wants to co-sponsor it and reach out to my office, please feel free and we'll get you on the list of co-sponsors prior to introduction. And then there will also be more than ample opportunity to sign on if you want to wait until the bill is introduced officially as well.
Great.
So with that, let me know if you have any questions, and thank you again, everybody.
Thank you. If you could share with us when the letter is done to your colleagues, that colleague letter. So for everybody on the call, what Representative Shanklin has done in the past, and the legislators like Tod on the call would know that how this works. She writes a letter to each office and includes a copy of the draft, and we can use that to contact throughout the state our local legislators as well to be supportive of this. We also then contact other industries such as the bankers and the credit unions and community partners through community action programs to be supportive of the bill. And I think we had maybe 30 groups that ended up being supportive of the bill last time, and we certainly will be there. Katrina, thank you for being with us and for doing this. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, thank you.
I also want to acknowledge Bella is on the call. You can wave Bella. Bella is from Representative Diane Hesselbein's office, one of the rising stars of staffers as well. Alex Johnson from Representative Lisa Subek's office. She has been a big supporter of this. I see Kathy Friedel, no stranger to the legislative process, I might add, is on from the Department of Revenue. And later on, I'm assuming, Kathy, that you would be taking Ann's place and making a comment. If that's so, just put that through in the chat. Okay, any questions for Representative Shanklin? Or for Emily? Or for anybody? Great. Thank you. Appreciate it. Keep working.
There are some on the chat box.
Go ahead, Tom.
No, I believe, was it Scott Kramer? Did you have a question?
There was a question in the chat box. Someone's looking for the official name of the bill because they'd like to follow it.
Right.
Sure. So again, the bill hasn't been introduced yet, so I don't have a bill number, but it's called the Invest Locally to Grow Wisconsin Act. And we'll make sure that Tom gets the bill as soon as we have it, including the co-sponsorship memo. And that way you all can amplify it. So thank you so much for your interest.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. We are going to dedicate ourselves to passing this bill. We're with you. We are committed to really pushing this forward and making this work. And just appreciate all the time and effort that you put into it. We're there. We're going to be knocking on doors. So thank you, Katrina. Thank you, Emily. At this point, I will welcome Secretary Kathy Blumenfeld, who is the Secretary of the Department of Financial Institutions. The department has joined us on every legislative day we've ever done. They are there as a partner. We will be working with the department in the future. There are things that can be done to help business, to help our communities without legislative action, things that can be done through administrative action in working with the administration and working with the agencies and the departments. We are so honored, Kathy, to have you with us. And if okay, I'll turn it open to you. This hour are words of wisdom, words of encouragement, and kind of an update on the lay of the land that we are facing. So that's our goal for this hour. Secretary, welcome.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. As Gary mentioned, I'm Kathy Blumenfeld, Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions, and I have the honor and privilege of serving in Governor Tony Evers' cabinet, and I continually update the governor on the great work that Wisconsin financial institutions are doing for our people and our communities across the state. The governor truly appreciates all your efforts, as do I, especially during this difficult time as we all continue to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic. I think we're beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel as more and more people get vaccinated. So hopefully next year, Gary, we'll continue that tradition of being with you every year, and hopefully we'll be able to meet in person. So
a bill signing. We'll do a bill signing.
There you go.
At your office.
We're in. So some of you here today are from community development financial institutions or CDFIs and live the mission every day, while others of you are here to learn more. So kudos to all of you for continuing as lifelong learners and advocates for the causes that are important to you. This is really a living example of how democracy works. I want to especially thank Gary Goike, who I've known for a million years, for organizing today's event, and Representative Katrina Shanklin for being a champion for CDFI issues in the legislature and your continuing efforts to pass a CDFI bill. The work you do to educate others is vital to the success of CDFIs in our communities across the state. CDFIs play a critical role in our communities. They're community lenders that are dedicated to delivering social and economic impact by providing responsible and affordable financing to people in communities underserved by traditional financial institutions, particularly in low-income communities. Wisconsin's, I think it's 23 CDFIs, come in many shapes and sizes from different parts of the state, but they're all connected by a mission of providing affordable financing to people in underserved and often vulnerable communities. The Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions, commonly referred to as DFI, shares a common mission. DFI plays a key role in strengthening Wisconsin's financial future by protecting the safety and soundness of Wisconsin's financial institutions, safeguarding the investing public, facilitating commerce, and increasing financial capability throughout the state. DFI also regulates, we're a small but mighty agency. We regulate investment advisors, we handle all business filings and registrations, we oversee charitable organizations, and we house the College Savings Program and the Office of Financial Literacy. Our goal is financial wellness for all Wisconsinites, which CDFIs are working to achieve as well. This month, we celebrate Financial Literacy and Capability Month. You may have seen Governor Evers' proclamation that we announced yesterday, along with all the wonderful activities happening across the state. If not, be sure to visit DFI's or the governor's social media accounts. In April, we celebrate Money Smart Week, National Teach Children to Save Day, National Credit Union Month, and many, many free events and initiatives for Wisconsinites who are saving for college, looking for insurance, first-time home buyers, planning for retirement. We encourage all of you to get involved and build your own financial capability, as well as assisting others in doing so. We're also very excited to launch a new pilot program in partnership with the Consumer Federation of America and America Saves that encourages people to save for emergencies with a split to save deposit program. I'm fortunate to be sponsoring this program, which is being done in Wisconsin with the idea of then that being the model for the entire country, with Wisconsin Bankers Association President Rose Oswald-Poles, State Treasurer Sarah Godlewski, and the Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative Corporation President and CDFI extraordinaire, Wendy Bauman. Speaking of Wendy, another big part of what the work we do in DFI's Office of Financial Literacy is provide support and guidance to the Governor's Council on Financial Literacy and Capability, of which Wendy serves and has served for a very long time as the chair. We're also fortunate to have other CDFI members on our council, including Jennifer McHugh from Royal Credit Union and Fern Orey from the Wisconsin Native Loan Fund. We thank these members for their continued service on the Governor's Council. In January, at the direction of Governor Evers, we expanded the charter of the Governor's Council to focus on building financial capability and financial inclusion. We've since expanded the council by 10 members and created a new subcommittee focusing on financial inclusion. And now we're beginning to chart the course for the work to be carried out. As this group knows well, CDFIs are leaders in financial inclusion, helping unbanked and underbanked get access to financial services. It was clear at the onset of the pandemic that CDFIs were a trusted partner that could help provide loans and grants to our most vulnerable people in Wisconsin. I'm grateful for all of Wisconsin's CDFIs and the work that has been done during the pandemic. You've been true heroes by providing essential financial services during this difficult time. I know it's been challenging for you, your staffs, and everyone involved, but truly appreciate the efforts in helping the most vulnerable and those at risk of falling through the cracks. It has been great to see the strong partnership between the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, perhaps better known as WEDC, and CDFIs. That's a lot of letters there, sorry. But supporting local businesses helps the entire community recover from the financial impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's also wonderful to see my friend and colleague, WEDC Secretary and CEO, Missy Hughes, being recognized for her amazing leadership through the pandemic later this afternoon. So congratulations, Missy, it's so well-deserved. In closing, keep up the great work serving the people of Wisconsin, and on behalf of the governor and myself, thank you for all you do. I look forward to working with you now and throughout the years to come, and wishing you all stay safe and healthy and be well. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. There was a lot presented, as always. Appreciate that. We are going to take some questions, and I have one to start off with, a little bit more about the Savings for Emergency program that you outlined, and how we might be able to market that or to help support that. That would be something that our committees and our members would be very interested in doing. And then secondly, just as a heads up, we'll go to the Department of Revenue, to Kathy Friedel and Representative Ohmstad after we're done with a few minutes of questions for the Secretary. So that was the first one, was maybe just a minute more on that Save for Emergency program and how that might work. Sounds great.
It's really a program that's targeted to small and medium-sized businesses. And really it's the connection between the employee, the employer, and the financial institutions. We would encourage all CDFIs that are interested to get involved, and we can absolutely provide you with information. We're going to be launching later this month, and we have a toolkit to make it super easy. But the concept is really like set it and forget it. So, take your paycheck and let's split out just as much as you can afford to go to savings, and the rest go to checking. It's very simple, but it's so important. We know in the state that 53% of our residents live paycheck to paycheck. And we saw during the pandemic how hard it was to have any sense of emergency savings. So this is really our goal of trying to get more savers and be prepared with emergency savings, and then build that beyond.
Great. Thank you. I think we have a question, Tom, from Wendy. Do you want to read it, or did she make a comment?
She did.
Okay. Toolkit will be handy and usable. If I were Senator Larson's office, Senator Chris Larson, I would get in touch with Wendy, and I would put on a program for my constituents in the city of Milwaukee. This will make sure they're listening in at the other end here by mentioning them. But that could be really something that legislators could do with the department. If you have a toolkit that's handy and usable, boy, I think of a lot of town hall meetings that having that information would be very useful.
Absolutely. Wendy, did you want to add anything to that?
No, thank you, Secretary. The main part I wanted to make is that it is for small businesses, but it's really targeted at small employers, because that's where there is a gap. The large employers have departments and offices to provide some of that financial literacy, financial empowerment support for their employees. The small employers don't. So this will be a buffet of easy links to distribute directly to where, the vast majority of individuals really in the state of Wisconsin are employed by small employers. And it's a gap that's there, and it's a gap that's really needed to be filled. So we're very excited about it.
Super. Thank you. Any other points to talk about with regard to this? Obviously, if you have any of your comments typed up, and if you wanted them to pass this on, we can do that with our people that may not have been on this first hour call. we would certainly do that. And again, thank you to your deputy who was very helpful in arranging this. One of the people that has been so involved in CDFI work is Peter Barca. And of course, Peter was a representative, then a congressman, then a representative, and now a secretary. And I believe, Kathy Friedel, are you on the call? I saw her name earlier. As I said, she is no stranger to legislative politics. And I had contacted Ann DeGarmo, who is the Department of Revenue's kind of official legislative liaison, because Representative Barca also instilled the love and the interest for CDFIs to Representative Shanklin, also to Representative Tod Ohmstad, who is a stalwart supporter. So if Representative Ohmstad is on, he could say a word or two at this point, and then I would turn it over to Kathy Friedel.
Gary, one quick point. Ann is on the line. So,
all right. I did not see her. Sorry.
Yeah,
she's the chosen one. Ann, how are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm lovely. Can you all hear me?
There you are.
We're good. Thanks. Thank you so much for having me on behalf of Secretary Barca. This was, your cause is something that's been really important to him throughout his time in the federal government as well as in state government. And your cause and partnership are important, and that's why I'm here today. He wanted to send his thanks for all of the work that you do and for your partnership over the years. And, even in his time as secretary, that hasn't changed. We're looking forward to working with all of you and hope that we can offer some resources to your folks and to your clients as we move forward. So thank you for being here. Thank you for all you do. Wanted to just talk briefly. Kathy Friedel is on here as well, listening in and joining you today. And she is running our Badger unit, which is business development and government relations. Yeah, and she, the vision for the Badger unit was to be a one-stop shop for businesses, small businesses and all businesses alike, to get resources and things that they need. So please use that as a resource. We'll follow up with all of you and your leaders to get information about that unit, but it's something that's been very close to the Secretary's heart and something that's really important to him. So we're excited to be able to talk to you about that today. And as well as we have a fantastic team of economists at the Department of Revenue. They do our revenue forecast for the state. They also look and produce economic outlooks. And we have a listserv of folks where you can get that on a weekly basis, that report. And we would love to have you and some of your leaders on those to get that information from us as a resource for you and the work that you do. So I wanted to be brief. I know you folks have a really big day today, but thank you for all the work that you do. You are financing dreams and making Main Street, Wisconsin happen. And we're so grateful for you. And we really look forward to being a part of this partnership and moving forward. It's been a really tough year. And we're looking forward to working with you to move forward.
Thank you, Ann. And I just want everybody to know, and for Ann to take back to the department, and thank you to Kathy for being on the call. That is good news, and we will market that within our membership. As the issues of CDFI and some of the initiatives in Wisconsin, as our committee met to talk about this day, the committee was really interested in letting Peter Barca, Mr. Secretary, know that he was remembered and respected for his early support of this legislation. And sometimes the words thank you aren't spoken often enough, and we did not want to miss this. So Ann responded very quickly. Ann is new to the world of lobbying for the department, somewhat new, right? And it's 24/7, Ann, just so you realize this. You'll get calls all hours of the day. But thank you for the kind words. Any questions for the department? If there are any discussion, I'll turn it over to Representative Tod Ohmstad. I'll wait a second here just to make sure. Okay. I think we're ready to go. And I did get a message back from Senator Larson's office, and they said, yep, they're here, they're listening. So I just had to keep them involved a little bit. Representative Tod Ohmstad represents the 65th Assembly District. He is a former alder in the city of Kenosha. He knows his district very well, a famous United Auto Worker. And I have to honestly say, in watching the legislature, he is often the senior ranking member, at least in the last few years, of a committee, and he comes as the most prepared member to any of the committees that he's on. If there are 10 bills, you know that this gentleman has read them, he has asked questions about them, and he's prepared to do business. He's a fierce defender, for those of you know the Kenosha delegation, of all things Kenosha County and Racine County. So he fights very well. So Tod, thank you for joining us. And I'll turn it over to you just for some greetings and words of wisdom, as I said.
Okay, well, thank you, Gary. First of all, can you hear me now?
Yes, very well.
Okay, great. Well, when you say senior member, I think that really just means old, Gary, and common.
No, you're not old.
Common vernacular. But I just like the financial literacy discussion a little earlier kind of sparked something in my memory. I remember when I was getting my first paper route, and I was going to be making, this is a long time ago, I think it was 75 cents a week, and I had to get permission from my father. And my father said, well, certainly you can do that, but you have to save 25 cents out of that 75 cents. So that lesson has served me well. I just don't think I need to further explain in this meeting about the value of community development financial institutions, but I want you to know that we certainly are aware of what you do and appreciate the work that you do all throughout Wisconsin. And I kind of like to think of you folks as the secret weapon in the state's economic toolbox. Just last week, I had a meeting with a small business owner from my district, in my district, and a regional development manager from WEDC, where we were able to offer up WWIBIC as the potential linchpin to gap funding that would allow her to purchase her own building after her business was destroyed in a tragic fire last summer. And I also want to just highlight and applaud the bipartisan CDFI investment bill that Representative Shanklin talked about earlier, and what an important bill it is. And I've been pleased to work with Representative Shanklin in the past and look forward to getting it over the goal line with your assistance this session. Because it's really the sort of thing that we need to do in order to guarantee that our small businesses have the opportunity to really make the next step forward. I look forward to the remainder of the session today, but I would be remiss if I didn't congratulate Secretary Hughes on what a tremendous job in really a tremendously tough period of time, and she has really been remarkable. I'm going to drive back to Kenosha in a few minutes, so I'm not going to have my video on, but I will be listening, I guarantee. Thanks for the opportunity, Gary. It's been great to see you again.
Great, thank you. Tod, I have one question. Any advice for us on getting sponsors of the bill? With the pandemic, it has been harder to reach people. We can't go with our little packets door to door as such, although that is becoming more possible. Anything jump to the top of your mind as an effective way to bring in the new legislators? So there are 24 new legislators, not all of them new to the process necessarily, but certainly in the state assembly, there are some very interesting people that were elected last November on both sides of the aisle that I think we need to approach. And just curious as to how your office likes to see things and any advice for us on presenting. We have a lot of people on this who can help us with that. And obviously, many of the issues, but I was just curious, anything that would help us in this time of difficult communications rather than eyeball to eyeball necessarily.
Well, hopefully that personal touch will be back a little bit more this session than it certainly has been in the last year, person to person in offices. But I'm sure that you're going to find hopefully an open door amongst all those 24 and also the remainder of the people in the legislature to hear just how important this bill is. And I always think that certainly organizationally it's important to approach people, but I would encourage all of your members to call their personal representatives as well, because I think that most offices, certainly we respond to organizations, but I think it adds like an extra touch if somebody is actually from your own district, somebody that you perhaps know or perhaps want to meet.
Okay, excellent, good. Thank you so much. Safe travels back to Kenosha.
Thank you very much, Gary.
Give our best to the mayor. John Antaramian was a supporter of our programs. He's now the mayor of Kenosha, so he was very, very much with us. So
well,
take
actually,
care.
He was in Madison earlier today, and I think that he's on the road right now.
All right, thank you. Take care. Thanks. Thank you to Matt in your office for setting this up.
Of course. Thank you.
Also on the call are some of the other legislative offices. I mentioned Bella was on the call and Alex. Alex gets lots of calls based on, they both get lots of calls, or some of the other legislators. Representative Samba Balda was on the call. How can we bridge the gap of communications and tell our story again? We can do this electronically, but maybe we're going to have to really dig deep with people that work in our agencies and in our institutions to tell a personal story. I think maybe part of that, maybe the panel will help us as we move into the panel a little bit later this afternoon. But any comments from any of the other legislative offices as to what works, what should we avoid, what are the new pitfalls of communication? And how many of the offices are still doing things electronically? Are most of the offices now open? Alex, you want to venture forth? I've caught him off guard.
He doesn't have a mic today, so it looks like
he
we're going to have
doesn't
to go
have
to
a
the
mic.
next one.
All right. So Bella, do you have a microphone?
Yeah, so I would just say for my office especially, we're still doing a lot of stuff virtually, and we probably won't be opening up to in-person things for a while. But it's always great to just have like pamphlets or sort of kind of your requests that you're asking for sent to our email in the rep box. Super important so that she's able to look over it, and then the rest of the staff can see kind of exactly what you're asking for. But as someone attending the meeting, I always, convey what happened to the rest of the staff afterwards as well.
Bella, let me ask you this. If Grace Bruce, who's on the call, called your office and said, I would like to do a Zoom call with Representative Hesselbein, would your office schedule that as a Zoom, like a regular office visit? Is that one way, maybe on a major piece of legislation like this, to work, as opposed to, I'm against the smoking ban or something like that? How would you handle staff requests for that kind of a meeting?
Yeah, so I would just say probably email is best, just because it's easier to talk about what times might work for the representative, but I think that's definitely possible. Okay.
Anybody else want to comment? Any of the other legislative offices want to add there?
Yeah, Gary, we got an update in the chat from Senator Larson's office stating that there's still 90% remote work in that office, but they are going to be fully vaccinated within a matter of weeks. So in-person visits will be more viable probably later on this year.
All right, thank you. That's what I'm looking for. I have done distribution. So one day, maybe a month ago, I did all 99 offices. And I would have to say, in the state assembly, I would have to say that 65 of them, there was really no one in the office. And I wanted just to myself go and see how they were handling it, whether the mail was picked up and put in the door. So really, what I just talked to Bella about, maybe one way, even if, so I'll go back to Grace again and just say, if she were to call her legislator and say, in our office, we're going to have 3 people for a Zoom meeting, that might be one way to handle an in-office visit if the office is able to schedule it. But to keep it not an hour, but to keep it to the 10 or 15-minute dialogue if possible.
A representative, Alex Johnson from Representative Subek's office, also put a comment in the chat box stating that she would like to echo what Bella had shared with us, and that Representative Subek is happy to do Zoom meetings right now.
Great. Okay. Excellent. That's good to know. And then just to comment and to kind of wrap up from, and you'll let me know, Tom, when Katie Domina comes on from the governor's office. And I did have long talks with Representative Scott Allen's office. He has a copy of the bill. It is the top of his, the heap on his desk. Talked to his staff person. Was Dan able to join us? I don't have, I think I have most of the people on there. Okay, I don't see him on the call right now. There are several, after our perfectly scheduled day, there were a huge number of hearings that were set up for this afternoon, including a number of leadership meetings. So I'm sure he sends his best regards, and they are very interested. Representative Allen was an author of the bill last time. In addition to his authorship, Representative Vandermeer from Sparta, Wisconsin, Republican member, also was an author of the bill, and as indicated, interest in Representative Shanklin's office will be working to make sure the legislation has broad support, or at least, interest described. We have any questions for any of the presenters? Any comment before we switch over to Katie Domina? I guess not.
Nothing yet, Gary. And also, I don't believe that Katie has joined us just quite yet.
Okay.
So if there are any other comments or any other offices that had kind of chipped in saying that this is how that they were doing visits and things like that, this would be a great time for you to share that.
Scott, are you still on the call with Representative Cabrera's office? Do you have a microphone? He may not have access to a microphone. Some of their offices do not. Okay, what we are going to do at 2 o'clock, we are going to take a break. And then at 2:15, we're coming back into session. And Wendy, do you want to say a word about the next session so everybody is aware of how it'll be a 75-minute session? And I'll let you talk for a second, and I'm going to text Katie just to make sure she comes on the call.
Sure. Well,
hey Gary, I am here.
Oh, okay.
Great.
Great. Thank you. You're always right on time, Katie.
Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you there, Gary.
No, that's all right. I was just you are the anchor, the end of the hour here. Within Governor Evers' office, he has a team of people that, believe it or not, who really do policy. And it is refreshing to see the emphasis he puts on policy. And I mean that very sincerely. I've seen a lot of governors' offices. Sometimes the policy maybe doesn't come from the governor's office or comes from somewhere else. But in this case, Katie Domina has, certainly when at the realm of her responsibilities, has handled the Department of Financial Institutions. And so she would work closely with that department and other departments. And I am very honored that she could join us for the last few minutes of this first hour. And Katie is she's a policy wonk. She really does follow up on things. She's creative, curious, demanding. I guess those are all good adjectives, right, Katie? And just, we appreciate the attention. We know how busy you are. And Katie has a few comments from the office and a little bit of an update for us. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And thanks for letting me stand between you and a break here right at the end of the hour. Like Gary said, I'm Katie Domina. I am the Deputy Policy Director in the Governor's Office and have been there since he took office in 2019. Gary asked me to touch on a couple of provisions in the governor's budget, but I wanted to just start by thanking you for your partnership with the state of Wisconsin. I know that WEDC, WEDA, and DFI in particular really value your collaboration. So just wanted to give my thanks and extend a big thank you from the governor as well. The governor's budget really aims to ensure that Wisconsin families, businesses, and farmers, and our state's economy as a whole can really bounce back from COVID-19 and bounce back in a way that is even better than we were before the pandemic hit. And, you know, while he knows and we all know that we have a long road ahead of us, now really is the time to make those critical investments and to support those who are most affected, while also looking forward to creating an economy that works for everyone. So just a couple of quick budget highlights here. More than $238 million to help Wisconsin businesses, $100 million in Wisconsin's venture capital program, more than $29 million in workforce development initiatives to help meet the need for more affordable housing in Wisconsin, more than doubles WEDA's state housing tax credit from $42 million to $100 million, establishes a new $50 million affordable workforce housing grant program at DOA, and creates state tax advantage savings account for first-time home buyers, which is a tongue twister. So while there's a ton of good economic development specific items in the budget, the governor also believes that economic development isn't just limited to those items I ran through really quickly. It also comes from investing in quality, accessible, and equitable early childhood education, K-12 education, higher education. Economic development comes from criminal justice reform and making sure we get justice-involved folks into the workforce. And it comes from expanding access to quality, affordable healthcare, protecting folks who have pre-existing conditions, and investing in mental health services. So we definitely welcome your help in getting this great budget over the finish line and investing in these critical areas. And Gary, I'll turn it back over to you. I really appreciate you having me on here for a couple minutes today.
Sure. Thank you, Katie. And I think the group knows this, but just so you're aware, we are honoring later this afternoon Secretary Missy Hughes at WEDEC for her work, especially during the pandemic. It's been a very stressful time for her own agency, for her own staff, of course, but for all the men and women, all the businesses and all the organizations that the department works with. We really appreciate that service. I don't think she would have ever anticipated leaving Viroqua, Wisconsin, and coming into this situation that she has put all of her vast amount of energy into. Our organization lobbies. We are registered with the Ethics Commission, I think, as most of you are aware. And we are going to be discussing these policy items. We have taken a stand on a few of them, but we will be communicating that the pieces of the budget we support. For everybody on the call, the budget is Senate Bill 111. It appears at this point that the document that's in the Finance Committee is being altered, but that if there is movement of the bill, it would be through the Senate bill. So there's a companion, two bills that are companions identical, AB 68 and SB 111. So if you follow this on your own computers on the legislative website, you will be able to follow along. Pretty easy to remember, SB 111. Speaker Voss and the Majority Leader Lemahue pretty much have decided that they will go with the Senate version of the bill. So the Joint Finance Committee will be debating a substitute amendment to the governor's budget bill. We certainly have a little bit of idea, but not much. And the first public hearings on this start on this Friday, April 9th. There will be a virtual meeting. This is going to be very interesting. I've asked leadership how to explain this. So rather than wait in line in public, at a public meeting, you will wait in line virtually. So if there are 600 people on the call, you'll as you get involved in these hearings and be as supportive. If your office, Katie, has things we need to be aware of on these matters, we certainly just send it to us and we'll get the word around. Tom and Wendy and others have developed a good communication system for us to get the word out to a lot of the members. And we have some new leadership in many parts of the state. So part of this is an education for us today as well. So thank you. Any question for the governor's office at all at this point? Yeah, Katie's schedule looks more like O'Hare Airport on a Friday night. I am aware of that. Yes. So our best wishes. I think it's thanks much from everybody, and we'll let you go to your 2 o'clock call, and we're going to take a break. We do have, I don't know, Katie, if you have any interns in the office, but I have found a number of interns are going to come into the panel. We have this great panel at 2:15 available through the same site. So people studying economic development or financial institutions, I sent a note to legislative offices about having the intern join in as well as a learning process. And I got a very good response from them for that. So any last words, Tom, on your end before we take a few-minute break here? Just first of all, thank you to everybody that was on the call, to all the staff, all the legislators. You are sincerely appreciated.
No questions or anything like that. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Representative Shanklin, as well as Secretary Blumenfeld, Tod Ohmstad, and Ann. Really appreciate your time. And I think we're good to go to the break. I don't know if Wendy wanted to kind of give a preview, but I think we can just break.
Oh, set the stage. Set the stage a little. Tell us the 4 people and set the stage before we move on.
Of course. Moving forward, we will be having our legislative briefing, which will be giving kind of an overview of CDFIs and kind of a CDFI 101. Macy Herr, the executive director at the Hmong Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce, will be leading us through that. And then we'll be having some representatives from CDFIs across the state. John Gaines from WIBIC will be speaking of WIBIC's impact on some of their small business and micro grants. My colleague Evan Reed from Forward Community Investments will be speaking about our investment into community facilities, one specific in Milwaukee. To find out, you're going to have to hang on and listen in. And then lastly, we have Laura West from Community Assets for People, the organization that Representative Shanklin had referenced in her earlier in her comments, and she's going to share some of the investments that they've made through some personal loans, some affordable housing ownership and rentals. To kind of echo what Katie said, I don't want to stand between you and the break. So we'll go ahead and we'll break for 15 minutes and we'll see everybody back at 2:15.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.